in five, four, three.
Good afternoon, companions, and thank you for attending this month's version of the Fireside Chat for the General Grand Council. I hope that this finds you all in good health and safety, and trying to stay cool if you're up in the Pacific Northwest. I have the great pleasure and honor to introduce most illustrious Robert Whitfield, who is the past Grand Illustrious Master of California, and I would like to welcome him and turn it over to him for his talk. Take it away, Bob.
Most puissant, I would like to thank you as well. And so if everybody will bear with me, I'll get what I'm going to present right in front of me. And so what I'm going to speak about today is the perspective that matters most is the one on the other side of the table. And so first, I would like to start with my expression of gratitude to our most puissant General Grand Master and his executive staff for allowing me this opportunity to present my thoughts on Masonry in general, and as those thoughts may apply to all of our bodies of our York Rite, which of course includes our beloved cryptic councils. What I would like to speak about tonight is how we present ourselves in our Masonic endeavors. This pandemic has really changed the status quo for a huge percentage of our populations, at home and abroad. Examples would include the shift from required temporary work from home directives for health reasons to large-scale expected now permanent work from home business attitudes. The rise of small-based businesses in the past year out of the necessity for some people to pay their bills. The large-scale closure of business office suites in high-rise buildings as those corporations, many of them, realize that there is now a way around massive annual office lease expenses. And finally, the unexpected dynamic of families staying together inside for over a year, realizing what they truly have missed, some after so much loss. And who would have thought that 2 years ago, that online video meetings would become such an integrated part of our life? So much so that many of us now just want to escape it, Masons in particular, and just go back to our normal social creature meetings. Over the recent 60 days, I have watched and participated as Masonry in California has started to reopen or thaw out from many months of Zoom, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams sessions. And it has become evident that we are extremely rusty at many things, from ritual to just scheduling the now enormous backload of events. There are Masonic memorial services for those that we have lost, degrees that have been placed on hold for far too long, Hiram Awards, lifetime achievements, 50-year golden veteran ceremonies, and this doesn't even account for all the various bodies that many of us participate in that are under the same backlog burden. Coincidentally, what has also become evident is the loss of member visibility. Many, and I included, have just grown tired of the video chats at every level. Many of our members stopped participating months ago. So the challenge is, how do we get back to normal? And more importantly, can we capitalize on this restart and continue to thrive? And while this is indeed a huge challenge, it should also be viewed as an enormous opportunity. If cryptic Masonry, as we have a vested interest in, is to thrive, flourish, and be a goal for Masons, we will need to change our perspective so our actions more carefully consider those it matters to most. It is the perfect time to review past procedures, question our past routines, listen to alternatives from our companions, and implement new strategies that create a future for positive change. Over the past many years, I have been our annual York Rite Fall Pilgrimage Area class conductor for all degrees and orders. And as an example, rather than just lead the class of prospective York Rite Masons from room to room and seat them on sidelines as they receive various degree presentations, I do my best to fill in all of their dead time with explanations, previews, analogies, I try to tie in connections to historical landmarks or relevant, interesting movies, such as Le Mont Saint-Michel and the movie La Cathédrale del Mar, respectively, to the degree that they may have just experienced. It is absolutely important that we engage, and engage. Encourage candidate participation by asking questions. Point them to engaging resources, such as Jonathan Spiegel's White Book on York Rite Masonry, which in a rather thin book spans all bodies and degrees in succinct but clear explanation. Introduce on an impromptu basis several young as well as older Masons that may wish to say a few words to our guys on their own. New candidates should be able to hear, see, and personally connect with all ages and levels. During meal periods, purposely seat engaging senior members, grand officers of the craft, if possible, at a lunch table full of candidates so they can openly discuss our craft. We need them to personally see a connection between what they came into our craft for to see, whether it's York Rite, Blue Lodge Masonry, the Commandery, anybody, what they came to see and what they get in return. And if they can tie those two together, then I think you have that magic thing that happens that piques their interest. Over succeeding years of doing this has yielded enormous positive feedback as York Rite men that I run into very frequently, most recently the other day in a random parking lot encounter with a new Harley owner whose bike I was admiring, when he said, "I remember you. I was in one of your York Rite classes a couple years ago." He says, "Let me show you a couple of the badges I'm carrying." And he showed me his York Rite badges for Royal Arch Masonry and the Blue Lodge and the Knights Templar. And on the other side of his bike, he had the Cryptic Council all by itself, siding one side of his bike, as he recalled his experience with his enthusiasm. The bottom line here is that we need to socially connect with each of our candidates. Each man is important because later they become our best ambassadors for the York Rite in their own Blue Lodge setting, which is what we're trying so hard to work and connect with, and yet we could have 50 ambassadors within the Blue Lodge all screaming our name and saying, "You need to do this." I would submit that aside from creating new councils, membership overall has continued to decline. This is most likely true in many Masonic bodies. Even if we are financially stronger, because we have become better at managing assets, we are probably not evolving fast enough toward organic growth, and we need to change that. If we are to truly get to where we want to be, we need the crowd leading the charge because they have seen something that they can really identify with and want more of it. I truly believe in that adage, we are the change that we want to become. We know we cannot control the way leadership operates in all other bodies of Masonry. We can, however, control how we manage our own space. So the light of our purple family becomes a beacon to others around us. We want the gravity of who we are to pull membership toward us rather than the other way around, simply because we matter from their own Master Mason's viewpoint. They've heard the story from their peers, not just necessarily from us, and that has inspired real interest. Some of our goals. In order to succeed, we need to have a pipeline to candidates. An approach to gaining petitions cannot be haphazard. Candidates come from local lodges and from the Royal Arch bodies. We all know this, and yet we continue to overlook the most basic opportunities that we have year after year. The most important consideration is visibility. If they don't know we exist, then they don't know what we have to offer, and we haven't opened that door of opportunity. Focus on today's methods of communication, not yesterday's. How often do we hear from younger people, younger Masons, your ideas are old. Your fashion is old. It's not what people wear today. Your flip phone is antiquated. Just text me. I don't do Facebook. Just watch it on YouTube. I saw it on IG, which is Instagram. You don't have to change who you are. You do, however, need to keep up. We need younger Masons. By younger for us, that means within the 30 to 50-year-old group, younger if possible, but that 30 to 50-year-old group, that would be our core, on your cryptic team. This is the key to accessing a younger base of membership, because age groups beget their own age group, and they are our biggest advertising banner. Many of these men are incredibly intelligent. Include them in your group discussions. Ask them for help. Literally tell them that you could use their help. We are Masons in this together, and we respond to a brother's call. Give them responsible roles. Solicit their possible approaches to problem solving, and you might be surprised at the leadership capacity just waiting for their chance to thrive. Younger Masons want this opportunity. They want to help, but often they're relegated to listen, watch, and learn. And always remember that they always need guidance and a willing mentor to turn to and bounce ideas off in all things. Some of the simple things to get started increasing membership are as easy as your most important events. Installations, honor ceremonies, pre-stated dinners, summer picnics, and yes, even well-planned Masonic memorial services. Advertise them well, but most importantly, approach everything with a clear plan that has the whole team's input and buy-in. There is nothing worse than getting in your own way. If you're going to make an effort, give it your best chance to succeed. Advertising doesn't stop with a flyer or an article in the trestle board or a date that's printed a month in advance, expecting that people will just show up remembering what was to happen 2 or 3 weeks from now. It involves continuous chatter and programmed reminders to your audience. Always consider the real benefits of having an eloquent Mason in front of your audience that has a smile and charisma to deliver a well-executed event. Everybody wins when people have a good time. Every person taking part in the ceremony should be matched with their strong point, their skills. Even the greeter at the door plays an important part. Partner with close-up similar bodies to access the best teams possible. Encourage understudies at all levels for the next event. And when it comes to participation, do not limit invitations to the same old email database that the secretary has. Spread the word. Encourage members to give it to their friends. And done well, you can feed potential prospects to your Blue Lodge and Master Masons to the York Rite. Think about that in the spirit of team building. Never forego an opportunity. Excuse me for 1 second. Never forego an opportunity to recognize the efforts of those around you. The light of Masonry isn't just about you. The bottom line here is that vision, organization, and execution, they all go hand in hand. And finally, in order for your organization to succeed, always recognize that your job isn't done until candidates feel that they have found a home. Successful Masonry is not just about degrees and meetings. It's about the mindset of inclusivity. If we are not aware by now, all of us on this Zoom call today, we've stayed in our favorite Masonic bodies because we ourselves have found a home. Men we connect with, guys that invited us to sit with them. We have celebrated together, we've mourned together, we've dined with each other, and Masonry is our second home. We take our bonds and our obligations to each other very seriously. We do, however, tend to stop participating when things become stale, contentious, burdensome, and the laughter has stopped. We simply cannot forget how our road started. This is the only way that we know to give the same experience to someone else. I hope that this has inspired some of you, and I haven't bored all of you. And I thank you for the time to be here with each and every one of you today. Fraternally, myself, Bob Whitfield. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, most illustrious sir, for outstanding talk. There's a lot of great points in there, and certainly things that people should consider when starting back up their meetings and trying to ease people back into participation. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead of us. It takes a long time to create a habit, but it doesn't take very long to break a habit. And when COVID hit and everybody stopped attending lodge every week or every other week, whatever they do, they fell out of that habit and likely replaced it with something else. And it's going to take some effort to bring them back and thinking outside the box on how to engage them again. So with that, Steve, do you want me to pause now or you want to pause after the question?
Pause now.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions or comments for Most Illustrious? I seem to attract all the quiet guys. Someone's got to have some questions out there. Comments? What do you guys do? Or what are you guys doing in your own jurisdictions to re-engage people?
Most pleasant.
Yes, sir.
May I report on this past weekend on some of the initiatives of General Grand Council? Perhaps that'll spark more conversation.
Okay.
So our General Grand Master has developed two programs, and most of you have heard of at least one of them, the First Responder Award, and then we have well, the medals are being held at Customs. I'm not sure if they're for ransom or just until they decide. But the Youth Advocate Award, both of these awards were consciously made because of the General Grand Master to co-brand with any Masonic family organization. So the idea behind these is that when you go to you as a cryptic Mason can go to a lodge and say, would you like to highlight a first responder or someone who has worked with the youth? And then the lodge, and I'll use the lodge as the Masonic family organization, but please do fill in Order of the Eastern Star chapter, National Sojourners. Pick a Masonic family organization, and they are actually the ones giving the award. So my example is my daughter for the first responder. Because this is going to happen in the very near future because she's done a lot. Edgewood Lodge number 82 proudly presents the Cryptic Masons International First Responder Recognition to Ashley Renee Balke, and it's Edgewood Lodge presenting the Cryptic Masons International First Responder Recognition. And it's signed by the Worshipful Master, signed by the Secretary of the Lodge. And this is to encourage Cryptic Masons to go to and through the lodge and into the community, which can, if done properly, have a ramification of interactivity, of attraction and understanding more of Masonry within the community, of maybe getting some of those events you were talking about, Bob, where people actually do things that are well orchestrated and show the good face in the time. This last weekend, I was presenting the same information to the Grand Sessions of Minnesota, but happenstance was that the Most Worshipful Grand Master was there, and he is not a York Rite Mason with the traditional three groups past the Blue Lodge. And before giving this speech, I checked in with him and said, Most Worshipful, do you see any challenges with this? Would you be willing to allow me to put this information out? And he said, sure. So there's a new opportunity to reconnect with the lodge, to reconnect through the lodge to the community, and start. And again, Monty said this I don't know, 3-4 years ago. And it was his answer at that point. And I think it still holds true now. General Grand Council isn't here to solve everybody's individual problems, but what we do is provide communication and a toolkit where you can take advantage of programs. And I will be quiet at this point.
Any questions or comments on any of that, or?
If I may,
Sure, Bill.
if I unmute myself here, I see this, but I think that there's got to be one more step. If I get, for example, Steve knows I talked about it Thursday night with him, wanting to give the Worthy Grand Patron for Eastern Star the Youth Advocate Award for all his years of work in Boy Scouts. Okay, and Steve was urging me to have our Star chapter sponsor the giving of the award. But I think one of the key elements that goes with it is, okay, we get the Star chapter to give the Cryptic Masons Youth Advocate Award from the General Grand Council to this brother. But I think it is absolutely critical that we also make certain that as Cryptic Masons, we are there during the presentation so that they can see the group from whence this award comes.
No, I think that that's absolutely a vital part, with the understanding and assumption that said meeting is open in such a way that non-members can actually attend, should they be like non-Eastern Star members or non-Scottish Rite guys or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I absolutely think that that's a vital part of that. And the same way with anytime you're giving one of these awards, particularly from someone or for someone that is not a Mason, and you're doing it, say, you're given say a soccer coach a Youth Advocate Award, work with the either the school or the commission that organizes the soccer teams that he may be a coach for or whatever, and create an event where all of the people that he's serving can actually attend, all the kids and their families and all that. And you do the recognition in front of them, and also have all of the Masons there, be they Cryptic or Blue Lodge or whoever is sponsoring the award. And again, that gives the recipient the honor of having it presented in front of those people for the recognition that he's doing all the hard work for. But also allows the Cryptic Masons and Blue Lodge Masons to be seen in the community as actually caring for the people that are working in that community.
You know, one of the things that I'm noticing more and more of as we restart Masonry is that several bodies, Blue Lodges, Hiram's, which for some of you that don't may not participate in the Hiram ceremony. Hiram ceremony is given to a Blue Lodge Mason that has given to his lodge over a long period of time, and he's recognized for his body of work, lifetime award by his lodge, by his peers. But I've noticed that within the York Rite chapters, councils, knight commanderies, Blue Lodges, we're doing a lot of posthumous awards. And so I've been getting notice after notice of bodies that are in my Cryptic Council. This year for the Fall Pilgrimage, which is where we bring in our largest classes, our honoree for the year is a posthumous award. For my Royal Arch chapter, the award for the Meritorious Service Award, a posthumous award. I just got a notice today from a huge Blue Lodge in San Leandro, California, We had Jesse Delacruz, who died, one of the first COVID deaths early last year, I think April of last year. And they decided that sometime in the next 30 days, I think in July, they were going to award him the Hiram Award posthumously. And I've noticed that as you turn around and invite, in Jesse's case, he was a champion bus driver, 6-time United States National Bus Driver Champion of the United States, 3 times individual champion, the most famous driver in the whole United States. When you invite his peers to come for this moment when you're going to deliver this award to his wife, this is a public event now where all his coworkers want to attend. We're turning around and we're doing a Royal Arch Award posthumously, and talk to his wife about this. And suddenly his whole Blue Lodge wants to attend a York Rite event that's honoring the 3 presiding Grand Masters, the Grand High Priest, the Illustrious Grand Master, and the Grand Commander of California. Normally this lodge may have 1 or 2 attendees. Now we've got a whole lodge full of guys that want to come to this presentation to see this happen for his widow. You know, there are just, like I said, there are things that are happening as we reopen Masonry that are not the same as all other years. And we just, like most puissants said, we need to think outside the box. Invite the people that are most important to these other folks, and they will come.
And as some of as a representative of the older crowd now, I think that we need to be able to check ourselves and make sure that we're not trying to keep the box closed. When people are coming up with new ideas and new things to engage people, give them an opportunity. Certainly be there to guide and counsel, but you know, sometimes the best way to help somebody learn is to let them fail. Just don't let them fail miserably, but you know, there's a lesson to be learned in failure as well as there is success. So but if they're never allowed to try, they're never going to be allowed to learn. And so we do have to make sure that we give them that space and opportunity to do that. So Alan, what are you guys doing in Brazil to, I know it's still really early in your guys' opening, but is everybody rushing back to meetings, or are you having to entice them back to meetings?
Well, most person, I would say that before the pandemic, I believe in the last 2 years before pandemic, we have been discussing how to motivate members and how to maintain the Masons, because in the last 10 years, or mainly in the 5 last years, we've been facing that new guys that became Masons. Sometimes they do not even come to become Master Masons, and they leave as fellow craft. So the Grand Lodges, the obedience, have been discussing what they could do about that. And since the pandemic, we saw here in Brazil at the very beginning, and I believe that it happens almost everywhere. Last year was a really rich opportunity. A lot of people that were not going to the lodges starting to be present on those virtual meetings. It was something very new. A lot of people liked that. But from the beginning of this year to now, we've been seeing again a decreasing on the amount of people being present on the virtual meetings. A lot of people are questioning themselves about the importance of being a Mason, and some of the lodges, they're trying to do the same thing for 4, 5, 6 times, and they're not achieving that. So when we deal here with old members, people from 40 years old or more, or people that are on the lodges, they are members of the craft for more than 10 or 15 years. A lot of them are remaining. But new members, they are starting to question why they are in the Freemasonry, and if there's anywhere else that they can achieve the same objectives or more than that. And I don't know, it's been a very complicated way to deal with this motivation and how to get the involvement of these people. As Bob said, what can we do to make them feel that Freemasonry is their home and that they feel comfortable, they feel that they can count on everyone, and that they are entering and being part of a new family? When that happens, they are there. But some of them, they're not achieved this point, they're questioning. And concerning finances, a lot of people in these last 2 years, they are withdrawing Freemasonry because they're not having face-to-face meetings, and a lot of them are having financial problems, and they are leaving and saying, okay, maybe in 2 or 4 years I get back. But some of them, we know that they're never going to come back. So a lot of people are thinking on these issues here.
Thank you. Steve, what's going on over in the east side of the U.S.? How are you guys handling it?
Well, at least in New York, and I will ask Dick Fowler to work with me on this. You know, all of the prohibitions have been taken off. I have some ideas that I'm going to be going forward with, but it's a difficult situation. I know locally in Massachusetts here, I've got a couple of guys who have filed petitions for chapter and council. 2 guys are going on to commandery. One of them at this point does not want to do it. We seem to have, at least on a local basis in Massachusetts, we seem to be bringing them back. Everyone wants to come back. The lodges are open. There is no masking unless you have not been vaccinated. Activities are coming back. I know my lodge just finished a 3-day trip to DC with about 15 guys. We have a very vibrant, I think part of it is who is running your lodge chapter council. Are these people who are being recycled for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time? Or do we have some younger fellows? Fortunately for my lodge, we have some younger fellows who are grabbing the horns and leading a lot of the activities. They march in a couple of local parades. They have put up signs in one of the roads coming into the town, saying that this area has been rehabilitated by Charles W. Moore Lodge, and it's the numbers seem to be coming back. The older men, we'd love to see them, but this has to be passed to a new generation now. And it's a generation that really gets their news a different way we do, gets their information a different way we do, looks at participating in these organizations a different way than we did. And we have to make accommodations for these guys. I look at what Scottish Rite is doing, and I'm embarrassed for what we're doing.
Is there anybody online that is from Ohio?
I haven't
Well,
seen anybody in any of the past ones.
Most of us will remember that several years ago, many years ago, Ohio did something that was completely just ran against the grain, and they did 1-day classes. And in 1 day, they turned around. They went from layman to their 1st degree, 2nd degree, and they walked out as a master mason. And to, I think, many master masons, we all sat there and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that they've opened that door." And it was really kind of interesting because I remember, and I don't know all the details about it, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer, time has flown by, they have a grand commander and his name was Pugh, P-U-G-H. And I was speaking to him. We were at grand sessions and we were conducting the drill team competition. And he was telling me, in Ohio, he says, we field 30 drill teams. And I'd like to think that he was telling me the truth because I found that just amazing that they would have 30 drill teams. In California, with as many Masons as we have and progressive as we have, we had a hard time putting together 8 or 9 drill teams. And yet, recently I sat there and I've pondered on this one-day Master Mason thing, and I looked up Ohio's population of Masons, and I'd like to say it was like 70,000 plus. They're one of the largest Masonic Grand Lodges in the United States. And I just wonder, again, we think out of the box. You have to have something to work with in order to have something to work with, right? So if you create huge numbers, there's going to be a huge number that's going to drop off and say, saw it, not interested. And there's going to be a certain amount that's going to sit there and say, I'm in it, and now I want to know more, I want to learn more, and now I want to participate. Well, somewhere along the way, they've got a lot of Masons, and the question is, how did they do that, and what do they do differently? And is it as successful as the numbers seem to indicate? And I don't know the answer to that. But it's one of those weird out of the box things that apparently netted a lot of new Master Masons.
Monty,
Well-
if I may, I was in a meeting in Connecticut, and they had a consulting group that looked at membership and stuff like that. And they reported, and they had used Ohio and then a couple of other states that had the one-day Masonic classes. And their statistics show that the retention rate among one-day class members was as good or better than the retention rate of the guys that went through the normal process over 3 days, over 3 or 4 months, so that the losses were about the same, or the retention was as good or better. And the other sad statistic that they also quoted is that out of every 2 Masons that we take in, we will lose one of them to NPD before he dies.
Good, Steve. Steve.
Yeah, Massachusetts is having a one-day class in September. As a matter of fact, it's going to conflict with the Northeastern Regional Conference, and they're emphasizing bringing in first responders. Now, Monty or somebody, and it's not in my purview to do this because I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, somebody should get in touch with them and see if we can make the pin for these gentlemen the first responder pin.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get us contact information, we'd be happy to
I certainly will.
reach out. Bill, going back to your comment about the retention between one day or fast class Masons and Masons that go through the regular process. I've always felt the reason why they are very close in terms of the retention levels is because of what we ask as where were you first made a Mason? And I think that, and this is my own personal belief, but that how one gets the outer trappings of Masonry, so to speak, the ritual through which they go through is not as influential as the fact that they were a Mason when they knocked on that door to begin with. And all we are doing is validating what they already knew in their heart. And I truly do believe that that is why you will see that. I know many Masons that have gone through one-day classes and have gone on to do great things in Masonry. We have a past Grand Master in Hawaii that was in our first one-day class in Hawaii. Dennis Singh, most worshipful Dennis Singh. So I don't think the method at which you receive the degrees necessarily has a bearing. Now, does it make it more challenging? Yeah, I think it does. Does it cause you to have to work a little harder to understand what lessons were presented to you between getting it through a faucet versus getting it through a fire hose? Yeah, I think it does. But again, if they walk into the room already a Mason, they're already going to be ready to just suck up whatever is available. So, Steve Balke, you had something?
I do actually, General Grandmaster. This is a conversation that's been ongoing with a lot of people in a lot of places. The Shrine Initiative on membership that is kind of coupled by at least one companion and Sernite to the Grand Encampment membership drive is one of the places where you find out these statistics, and they've got a really good set of statistics. And what I have tried to, there's another side of the conversation that Monty, you alluded to, that's very important that we can't lose sight of. It's about the candidate in the degree. Nobody's going to argue with that. But it's also, as soon as you stop with the candidate, it's about the lodge. It's about the chapter, the council, the commandery. It's about the organization. And one statistic that has not been efforted is when you do not have a need for the existing Master Masons, the existing companions, the existing Sernites to go and do the work and become more influenced, more affected, more knowledgeable, more interactive with the work, how much are you starving that lodge of its future, not by whether or not you're retaining the candidates, but whether your retention, since that's one of the buzzwords they're using, is being affected for the existing members. What I have noticed is that when you go to the one day, the festival, the reunion, whatever branch of Masonry you're talking about, you see less if there is less of a requirement. And you also see habits of, oh, somebody else will take care of it. And it's easier to allow the distractions of everyday life in our society with the electronic devices that take up your minutes every 5 minutes. With all of these different things, people are not investing. And going back to a couple of things that have been said, the habits are quintessential. The mentorship is quintessential. And it doesn't necessarily matter if you are doing an all the way in one day for the candidate's sake, but I do believe that there's a delta of result and consequence regarding the existing membership. And I do believe it's ignored. And I do believe that there's something to going ahead and making sure that that's covered. If you're going to do the all the way in one day because you've got that impacting performance and you've got first responders who don't have the time, great. But everyone should have one person that is going to call them up every other day and say, hey, do you want to get together and practice, or something like that? Otherwise, the habits aren't going to be there. Thank you, General Grandmaster.
If I may, I would like to add some on that and the previous comments. As a teacher and dealing with teenagers, and when I compare with new Masons from the 20 to 40 years old, one of the biggest problems that we believe that we are facing is the way that they learn and that they deal with the new information is very different from what it was 20 years ago. And for example, I see new Masons when they are initiated, they want to have information. They want to learn new things. But when they go to the lodge and see opening and closing, and then the next time opening and closing, and the next time opening and closing, after 4 times, he thinks, okay, we'll be here for more than 10 years doing always this opening and closing. And when you start to talk with this as a mentor, when Steve mentioned, when a mentor comes to close to this guy and say, look, you are listening and you are watching this opening for the 4th time. Have you already noticed that during the opening, we do that because of this? Have you noticed that during this opening or closing, this guy is walking to that direction and doing that? And when you're starting to do these kind of questions, 2 things happen. The new member is starting to think outside his box and seeing new perspectives. So he's seeing new things and more. He's given a chance to respond. He's given a chance to be part of that, not just to be there seeing what's happening, but trying to talk, trying to discuss, and trying to understand. So the paper of a mentor or for each member, and even the new Master Masons, it's very, very important. And I believe that is when one lodge have these guys strategically close to new members, to new masters, the result usually be very, very positive.
Yep, those are great points, Ellen. You know, mentoring is one of the, sometimes I think it's becoming a lost art. People don't spend time together like they used to. You know, with I think one of the things that had hurt Masonry the most is when we started coming up with ritual books and we started getting away from the mouth to ear type of communication. I know some jurisdictions still do it, but when you had that need to communicate something from mouth to ear and learn it that way, you were forced to spend time together. And you have lovely memories of the guy that was so mean to you and teaching you the ritual and how he went from, God, this guy's driving me crazy, to a saint in the span of a few years as the pain of being driven to learn your ritual subsides. It, you know, in Hawaii, and I'm sure Bob is familiar with this as well. You know, we do California ritual, and there are a lot of things in the lectures that are considered optional because they're part of the well, it's been so long, I'm forgetting the words. Part of the monitorial sections of the lecture. And so they can be omitted, and you reference the monitor and say, you know, there's a book there, go read it, and good on you. I never liked that method. I think the lectures are very important. All of the lectures, including the monitorial section, because one, if you tell somebody to go read it, they're probably not going to read it, most particularly if you don't give them the monitor. And I don't think anybody gives them the monitor until they become a Master Mason, and you've already told them twice before to go look at something they can't look at. But also it gives you, it's part of the story. It's the filler that ties everything together in a lot of this ritual. It's explanatory information that's necessary. And if you have someone that is good at lectures, which is different than good at ritual, I consider the two things very different. But if someone can present a lecture as if they're telling a story, if they're really communicating rather than standing up there regurgitating, which will put someone on a pot of coffee to sleep, you need to be able to engage them. And so, again, finding, and kind of this gets back to what you were talking about, Bob, earlier, about making sure you put the right people with the right skills to do a specific job. And it may be difficult, I'm sure, in the beginning for any organization, particularly when you're suffering membership issues, to find those resources within yourself. But, hey, get somebody to come in and help out and train someone to do it. Everybody has skills that can be developed. They don't necessarily have them naturally. But, the best way to keep guys' interests without holding their eyes open is to have really interesting and engaging ritualists and lecturers. The other thing too is teaching your membership, your candidates, that one of the important aspects of Masonry is when you're there, you have to be present. You can't be just there physically. You have to be engaged mentally. And yeah, it's the 10th time you've seen the opening, but if you are in the moment, if you are present and you're watching and engaging, you're either memorizing it subconsciously or you're studying it and internalizing it, and you're going to start asking yourself these questions. The same is true of the ritual. Watching the ritual over and over again, there's always something new I see every time I see it. And it could be the way someone presents it, using the exact same words, but they different intonations in their voice, that sort of stuff. But we don't spend a lot of time in telling our members that is like, look, this isn't someplace where you just go and sit in front of somebody and they're going to throw stuff at you and we'll see what sticks. You have to be open and receptive and engaged, and then feed it back. And you have to continuously be part of the process. If you come in with the expectation that you're going to be nothing but a receiver, you're going to end up being disappointed, because in order for our organization to work, it really depends upon that feedback and that interaction. Because if not, we might as well just have one person there and says the sky is green, and we'll all agree we'll run off the cliff and close the doors and good night. But that's not what we're about. We're about the exchange of ideas. We're about supporting one another. We're about caring for one another, and you cannot do that if you're not engaged. Somebody put me on a soapbox.
I'd like to comment on that too. That, and you've really hit the nail right on the head, because it is really important that we all recognize that there is potential right there in front of us. And we need to somehow draw that potential out and let it add to who we already are. I told you earlier that one of the positions that I enjoy most of all is being the camel herder or the class conductor for our fall pilgrimage class. And one of the things that I always do is after each degree, after each order, I always ask the class as I take them out and I bring them up to the break room, I say, did you enjoy that? What part was your favorite part? What part of that degree did you enjoy the most? Was it the charge of the Mark Master degree? Was it the apron lecture of the Select Master degree? Was it Hiram Abiff's portion where he took Adoniram around the room and spoke to Adoniram? Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the principal conductor's work as he delivered the Royal Arch degree? What did you enjoy? And then we usually have a lot of questions, answers that go back. There's a lot of feedback as people tell me what they really got a lot out of personally on a personal basis. Usually at the end of the day, I finish off by saying, you know, there's a lot of men that put in a lot of work to deliver these degrees to you today. And if I could ask of you one simple thing, I would like you to take your thoughts back to when I asked you what was your favorite part of the degree. And I would like you to think about that one thing that stuck with you. And I would like you to take it upon yourself to learn that one simple part, that one charge. No matter what it is, the one small part that you connect with in the Blue Lodge, in the chapter, in the council, in the commandery, that one part. And I would like you to go home today and think about it. And I'd like you to try and learn that one part so well. That's going to be your part and yours alone. And within a year's time, you are going to be the best in the whole Bay Area at delivering just that one part. It's going to be an easy, simple conversation that you're going to have with a group of men in front of you that are as you are today. They're going to be the candidates and you're going to be the teacher. And you're going to deliver that apron lecture. You know, as you wear this apron within the confines of this as a sacred retreat, so may you take its symbolism home with you, and there wear it within your hearts. And you're going to speak to them simply, and I want you to own just that one part, and that's what I want you to take from today. And if you can do me that one favor, learn just that one thing. And, you know, and as Monty said, we need to engage, and we need to empower, and we need to delegate, and we need to allow them to become us, and for us not to get in their way, but to be their sounding board, their leader, the person that they can come to and say, how did I do? Criticize me openly. Tell me if I did a good job or a bad job. And you sit there and you should take pride in knowing that if this man rises to a level higher than you were ever able to attain yourself, you have done your part in Masonry. Because you have been a teacher to that man. It's kind of like the student that comes back to Alan years later and says, you were my teacher. You made me who I am. And I think that's the greatest gift that we can ever receive.
Very well said. Any other comments, ideas, suggestions? Y'all are quiet. John, you were nodding your head quite a bit. Do you have any thoughts on anything?
Sir, I'm sitting here listening to all the ideas and trying to take them in. I like the idea of the one-day classes, the fire hose syndrome. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, and throughout most of the state, they've taken on the approach of doing a slow class and very much only doing 1 or 2 degrees a night, and then taking the rest of the evening after we're closed to go out and do what we call an add-on, an after degree discussion, or typically after degree drinks, because you'll find that a lot of the younger generation will they won't ask that question. You can ask them 100 times while you're doing it in the meeting, any questions, you never get one. However, you sit down afterwards in the discussion, and it sounds kind of bad, but if you plant that seed and someone asks a question concerning one of the degrees, and they see someone else asking a question and then getting a reasonable response and a discussion from it, well, then they'll ask that question. And I'll tell you what, I have probably learned more from the guys going through than I did from the guys that did degrees, because they see it from a fresh perspective that we never have. They catch that small mustard seed of an idea that then blooms into something else in another degree that we've never really caught. And it's a wonderful experience to have those young guys come up with new ideas, and you learn from them. You think they're learning from you, but if you're truly paying attention as you give them these ideas, you're learning from them as well.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And General Grand Master.
Yes, sir.
It gives me pleasure to introduce the youngest, most illustrious Grand Master on this meeting, most illustrious companion, John Boker.
Congratulations, sir. That just means you have more time to be at the top of a lot of other organizations after this.
Well, you know, here in South Carolina, I won't say I'm ashamed to say, but I'm sorry to say that we're not a member of the General Grand Council.
Well, that can always
However,
be
comma, we're looking at making those changes down the road. We were there in the beginning. We need to be there in the future.
We are happy that you guys see the possibility of coming back, and while we would not even think about pressuring you guys, I would say that we are here with open arms and would be happy to have you back. And I look forward to the future that we can. I'm a firm believer in strength in numbers, and I hope that we can win back your trust and confidence and be able to move forward with that. So, but
Sir, if I can tell you, it's never had anything to do with that, and I'm not going to get into why it did have to do with. And Steve and I have talked on numerous occasions. I am just very happy. You asked how many people does it take to have this fireside chat? I'll tell you, sir, there may only be 13 people on that have remained on this meeting today. I, for one, enjoy it. I know that now that South Carolina is going to be probably having a little bit more robust activity within the fact that we can now do Zoom meetings. We were not allowed to for a long time, but I foresee some of our officers coming on. I love the education. I love the presentations that are made. Thank you, most illustrious Robert. I appreciate the insights and the views from people that have done this before. So I hope that you will continue doing this kind of a thing. Heck, even if it is just a chance to sit down and talk with brothers that we would have never been able to speak with otherwise.
I agree with you 100%. And it's really, beyond the giving an opportunity for the craft to be able to have access to me and the General Grand Council in general. I do see it as a very important mechanism to exchange ideas without the concern of structure and titles and all of the hoopla that we put around ourselves to insulate ourselves from people approaching us with ideas. This kind of a setting is a great free-for-all, and to be able to just throw out any idea and get feedback on it, positive or negative, whatever it may be, and then you can take it for whatever it's worth, and it's kind of a safe area to float things. There are topics, and one of them I would probably bring up later if anybody's interested when we're not recording, but it's my perspective on the Masonic lemming problem that we have. But I tend to get a little animated in certain conversations. So the other one too is, and I don't know if I've ever told you, Bob, but I have a story around the Hiram Award, and I don't know how many jurisdictions actually have the Hiram Award. I assume that we in Hawaii have ours because of coming from California, but I'm not sure how many other jurisdictions actually have Hiram Award. But I was actually presented with the Hiram Award when I was at the ripe old age in masonry of 6 months. And I didn't know what it was. They just, someone called me up and says, we're having a dinner, you're invited. Show up at such and such a place and wear a tie. So, which in and of itself is unusual for Hawaii, but showed up there and they presented me with this. The master, who was a rather substantial individual, he was is Samoan, big guy. One of his hands is like two of mine. I mean, this guy's huge, deep booming voice, and he presented it with me, and it's like, okay, whatever. This is cool. And I went about my business, but then I started hearing people chirping, talking about, who is this guy that got this, and what is he? And not just in Blue Lodge, I was hearing it from Scottish Rite and York Rite and all over the place. Just people talking about me suddenly, and I started digging into what it was and what it was all about. And I called the master of the lodge up and I said, "You have cursed me with this thing." And it's like, why? And it's like, there are people out there, brothers, that spend a lifetime trying to live up to or be worthy of receiving this thing. And now I have to spend a lifetime living up to it. And he goes, what do you think I give it to you? And it's like, yeah. So, and two things in my Masonic career really mean a lot to me. My white apron and that Hiram Award.
And obviously you lived up to it.
Well, I depends on who you ask, but I have always tried to do what I thought was right for the craft and not for myself. And I have probably many stories, many more than people want to hear, of how I've upset people by putting the craft first over a personal agenda. I don't believe in those. We are all biased by them. We can't help but be biased by them. But we all have to be very aware of them and be able to set aside our biases or our own desires, and do the will of the craft and what's best for the craft, unless the craft is trying to run off a cliff, and then you have to step in, and that's you're supposed to protect it. It's not about sitting at the top of the heap for a period of time and look at me, I'm important and all that. I don't do that. I've had lots of people talk to me because I'm not the typical grandmaster, or I'm not the typical whatever I might be doing. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to serve the brothers, and I want to have a good time. So, but yeah. And you can't take things so serious that you forget to enjoy the trip. So that's why I like to ride instead of drive, but I get stuck driving all the time. Sorry, I digressed on that one. But anyway, anything else, guys? Bob, I really appreciate your talk. I've always respected your ideas and thoughts, and you along with other people on this call have always been good about bringing forth their thoughts on the things that General Grant is doing and or not doing. And I think you are the reasons why the General Grant has been improving over the years. And it's not anything special with me or my team. I think that the idea is, or the real change has been that people are engaging and we are listening. And I think that That's been the difference between night and day. And I thank everybody for that. So, and if there's nothing else, I will bid you all adieu. Alessandro, the Grand Illustrious Master for Italy, sends his regards. He was in Serbia the other day. Just this yesterday, I think he got back from Serbia. He was over there for the grand chapter being constituted, I believe, in Serbia. And so he was really tired, and so he told me to say sorry to all of you guys that he had to leave. Real quick, funny story about attendance at Zoom meetings. Alessandro, every few months they have a Masonic education series out of the Grand Council there. And I'm always invited, and I'm always happy to attend. It's all in Italian, so I don't understand really a word that is said, but I like to be there and I like to be present. As Alan can attest, I'll go to meetings in Brazil and again not understand a word, except Alan tends to translate for me. But it's not about necessarily understanding. It's about being there and letting them know they have your support. But so they were having this meeting, and afterwards Alessandro sent me a message apologizing to me for the low turnout. And it's like, really? You're apologizing because you had a poor turnout for your meeting? It's like, yeah, I really expected more people. He had over 300 people on that call, and he was embarrassed because of the number of people that showed up. And it's like, I've seen some really good meetings that aren't like triennial level meetings where people have had 100, 200 people on it. But I tell you what, I told him, it's like, you got nothing to be embarrassed about. That is a good turnout. And the thing is, I tend to watch the numbers, and you'll see, okay, 10 minutes after it starts, you've got a peak. And so people will be there. You might have, say, 100. About 10, 20 minutes into it, you'll start seeing them ticking off. And usually by the end of the meeting, you're down to about half, if not less than what you started with. Not in Italy. These guys came in, and I think he lost maybe 6 during an hour and a half presentation. And then they stayed a real long time afterwards, chatting about the subject. And then the thing I enjoy the most about any Italy meeting is when they say goodnight, everybody on the call says goodnight at the same time. It's ciao tutti by 300 people. And it's just, it just cracks me up. It's kind of like a roller derby type of good night everyone type of thing. So always tickles me. Love that group. I love all the groups that I had the honor and privilege to be a part of. The guys in Brazil are great. Also, if you guys could please give your congratulations to the Companions of Brazil. We just gave them a dispensation to form a new Grand Council there. Alan is my regional deputy for Brazil. I did things a little different this triennial by giving Brazil their own regional deputy because the intent over time will be to create multiple jurisdictions within Brazil. Brazil has a lot of Masons, a lot of good Masons that are really, really hungry, I believe, to learn not just Yorkite. I mean, a lot of them are coming up through the Demolay ranks. Demolay, I think, is huge in Brazil. Alan was Demolay, the Grand Illustrious Master. Rafa was Demolay. And, I think that if we can help them grow in the realm of the Yorkite under the American Yorkite system, and steer the pitfalls that often come up with leadership in places where leadership can be challenging sometimes. I think that it's going to be a wonderful thing, and I've got just so much joy with everything that Rafa and Alan are doing with the guys in Brazil. Sorry, I'm being hailed at the moment.
I would like to add that we are really, really sure, and there's a great team working hard for that.
Yep. Thank you, Alan. So anyway, with that, I think that I'll close things down for tonight. If no one has anything else, last call. Don't forget, our Aloha shirts are available through Michelle Balke, and we still got ties and all kinds. That's my commercial. You gotta get the commercial before we hang up. So anyway, take care, guys. Bob, again, thank you so much for your talk, and I'll keep an ear out for what the next subject matter is. I'm still working on what we're going to talk about on that one. So, and if you have any suggestions or if you want to volunteer to give a talk, please reach out to me. Love to have you. Yes, sir. Were you waving to somebody else or pointing back?
No, sir, I'll volunteer for one of the upcomings. I already talked to Steve, but that'll be forthcoming.
Okay, great. Look forward to it, John. Okay, guys. Aloha. Take care. And
Most
we'll
puissant, good night. Most illustrious Alan, good night. I really enjoyed speaking to you earlier before the session started. Good night, everyone. And John, I know you're going to be great, brother. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I'm worried.
Bye.
Bob.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome. It was exactly what I expected to get out of this afternoon. Maybe more. Thank you,
Steve. Good night, everyone. I really
Good
enjoyed
night,
the
and
time
thank
that you
you.
reported me. Bye-bye.
Good night, Robert.
All
Steve
right.
Balke, Wayne Long here.
Long.
Hey, do you happen to have an individual time schedule for the triennial on August 13 on when we're going to start? And if we're going to have any individual classes, or are we going to have like a recorder's training, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, if you go to the website,
Yeah. Okay.
that
And
first article there.
Okay. And I seen it said, well, we're going to have on the 13th. It's in Spanish. There we go. You good man. Yeah.
My last call last week was with Latin America.
Yeah, that's good. No. Okay. There we go. Okay. Thank you. I had been looking on the daily description or the weekly description page, but I had not seen this yet. So I will get that, and it's under the description page now.
It's on the front page, first article on the front page, because it's the latest decryption. But yeah, this was the article in the decryption.
Okay, I've been engaged in several things in the last several days, so I may have missed it. So, but okay, I will look for that, and I will take care of that. And I appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing you there. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Have a good evening, Steve. Everybody.
Be safe.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So I guess it's not too late to register, right?